European natural gas prices have fallen for the first time below their values before the war in Ukraine.
Despite being in a war for almost a year now, there is breaking news coming to Moscow. Looks like Elon Musk was right when he predicted oil and gas production must recoup to the old days when it was the main source of energy. The news of Moscow's willingness to resume gas supplies to Europe via the Yamal-Europe pipeline was met with cautious optimism. It's surprising most governments are quiet about this when it is so necessary to talk about energy news. After years of political tension and economic struggles, it seemed that progress had finally been made in restoring diplomatic relations between Russia and Europe on gas and oil. Though some were skeptical that this newfound peace would last, others saw it as a sign of hope for a better future. Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak announced that they would begin preparations for restarting operations on the Yamal-Europe pipeline once again. Realistically, I think we need to use oil and gas in the short term, because otherwise civilization will crumble, Musk said on the sidelines of an energy topic during his interview. At the times of massive cold weather and energy crisis, this is equal to a miracle. Many people contributed directly towards something bigger than themselves, helping bring energy security back into Europe while also creating new jobs along the way. As time passed by, however, public opinion shifted heavily against those working on the project due to concerns over environmental impact or potential political implications. But despite these odds, people never gave up hope nor lost sight of why they had gotten involved in this process: to help create a brighter future for everyone around them through cooperation instead of conflict. With perseverance and dedication, they managed to do just that, proving yet again that sometimes all you need is faith and determination to achieve greatness. If you can remember, it all started in December of 2021. Poland had made the difficult decision to turn away from buying gas from Russia, instead choosing to draw on stored gas in Germany. The move shocked both the Russian and Polish governments, who had until then enjoyed a strong economic relationship. But times were changing quickly, and soon Gazprom, Russia's leading energy supplier, was responding by cutting off supply completely. In May of 2022, things came to a head when Moscow imposed sanctions against the firm that owned the Polish section of the Yamal-Europe pipeline. This meant that not only would Poland no longer be able to buy Russian gas, but it also couldn't export it via their territory either. In response, Warsaw terminated its agreement with Russia altogether, signaling this new era for their relations with Moscow and Europe as a whole. With nowhere else left to go for fuel supplies, many people living in Eastern Europe were left without power or heat during an especially cold winter season later that year, leaving them feeling helpless and frustrated with their political leaders' decisions. However, some saw this as an opportunity. Small business owners began offering alternative solutions, such as wood-burning stoves, while others turned toward renewable sources like solar energy and wind turbines, which could provide more reliable electricity than ever before. The situation has since calmed down, as other agreements have been put into place between different countries, allowing for natural gas exports once again. But now there is much greater emphasis being placed on environmental sustainability so that similar issues do not rise again in future generations. It may take years before everyone feels comfortable trusting each other fully once more, but at least now there are better ways of ensuring secure fuel supplies, even if diplomatic ties become strained between nations at any point in time. In recent months, officials had been hard at work negotiating additional gas supplies through Turkey after announcing plans to create an LNG hub there. Now it seemed as if all of their efforts were beginning to pay off, as they expected to ship 21 billion cubic meters of liquefied natural gas to Europe by the end of 2022, an increase from 19.4 BCM over 11 months earlier this year alone. They thought about what this meant for his country and its citizens. More jobs created due to increased demand for workers needed for distribution and transportation, improved infrastructure thanks to increased investment from abroad, and better quality of life overall due to access to cheaper energy sources than ever before. Not only would families be able to save money, but also reduce their carbon footprint significantly. This allows Russia's economy to grow even further while simultaneously helping make our world greener and more sustainable too. Russia wasn't content, however. Its next goal was to increase gas supplies to Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. Russia knew that this would be even harder than what it had achieved so far, but it was almost a fact that it could revolutionize the energy industry in Central Asia if it succeeded. This task seemed almost insurmountable at first glance, but they began searching for possible routes through which Russian gas could be delivered into these countries, either via the existing infrastructure of Central Asia or by swapping resources from Iran's territory. The plans seemed risky yet intriguing. One thing was certain, though: success would mean nothing short of monumental changes within the energy sector in this part of the world. While Tesla sells tons of new electric cars in the face of Model 3 and Model Y SUVs, the EV giant still relies on governments bringing electricity enough to charge all the electric cars sold over decades. Elon Musk already knew this when he said, "One of the biggest challenges the world has ever faced is the transition to sustainable energy and to a sustainable economy," he said. That will take some decades to complete. At the end of the day, Europe is really indeed in trouble without Russian oil. At the time of the major winter season, gas and oil production is the only way to survive the nations. On the other hand, even in the US itself, Exxon and Chevron are committing to spend billions more on oil projects in 2023. ExxonMobil and Chevron are set to open their coffers in 2023 with a hefty combined investment of over $40 billion. Exxon will be leading the way by investing up to $25 billion, while Chevron comes close behind at almost $17 billion. Both figures sit near the top end of each company's medium-term capex range. This is creating an exciting 14% increase for Exxon and 25% hike for Chevron compared to 2022 spending plans, which themselves has already been cut back significantly from original hopeful budgets this year. It looks like oil and gas output growth, alongside decarbonization investments, could create some real momentum. Exxon and Chevron are signaling to the world that they're ready for a significant recovery in 2021, with both companies targeting 3% compound annual output growth through 2026 to 27. In addition, their budgets show an increasing focus on reducing emissions, as well as investing heavily into clean energy sources such as CCS, carbon capture and storage, hydrogen, and biofuels, particularly from Exxon, whose capacity is substantially higher than before. In a reversal of its performance 2 years ago, energy giant Exxon has witnessed record gains on the stock market this year with an incredible 75% increase in shares. In stark contrast to their tech and EV counterparts, investors' attraction towards secure returns from oil have allowed for historic success by Exxon that stands out against Tesla's 60% plunge, which is set to be one of their worst annual performances ever. These discrepant trends can largely be attributed to fluctuating global demands following the disruption caused by Russia's invasion into Ukraine, as well as rising prices due recovery efforts post-pandemic, alongside tightened supplies throughout 2020. Despite the promise of a cleaner future, electric vehicles have been met with tepid enthusiasm in 2020. Financial pressures from rising manufacturing costs and economic uncertainty have dampened demand for EVs this year, leaving major car makers struggling to keep their wheels turning amid an increasingly bleak outlook. One must admit that at this moment in time, Tesla is not really competing against the major oil and gas producers around the world. In fact, as Elon Musk has been consistent about it, Tesla and other energy source producers must work together to meet the demand of the human population around the world. This is very certain that solar energy is a future. However, it will take decades and much more solar infrastructure to meet the current and increased population demand for energy.